who have experienced violence and exploitation, including Liz Stein and Jessica Michaels, both survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse. They are here in the gallery with us this evening. Thank you for being here. Just this morning, House Democrats released more emails showing that Trump knew more about Epstein's abuses than he previously acknowledged. It's past time for Congress to restore its role as a check and balance on this administration and fight for we, the American people. That is why I will sign the discharge petition right now to release the Epstein files.
So once that happened, it was time for Donald Trump to freak the out over on Truth Social. Did you guys see this? This is crazy. He said the Democrats are trying to bring up the Jeffrey Epstein hoax again because they'll do anything at all to deflect on how badly they've done on the shutdown and so many other subjects. The only thing the Democrats did on the shutdown was caving in and allowing you guys to get your destructive path back. Anyway, back to this post. Only a very bad or stupid Republican would fall into that trap. The Democrats cost our country $1.5 trillion with their recent antics of viciously closing our country, while at the same time putting many at risk. And they should pay a fair price. Here's the best part. There should be no deflections to Epstein or anything else. And to any Republicans involved should be focused only on opening up our country and fixing the massive damage caused by the Democrats. Why are you bringing up Epstein, bro? Why don't you answer some questions about Epstein since he's on your mind? What is it about Epstein has you talking about him right now? I thought we should stop talking about it, but this guy brought him up 2 times in this post. Why are you bringing him up? I thought we're supposed to shut up. Remember all that was supposed to happen? That is until you're panicking because now these things are getting a little bit closer to your ass. He doesn't like seeing the developments, so he's trying to go to this next step. He's got this Congress that he feels, which probably for good reason, are full of a bunch of yes men and women that are afraid of him. So he can give directives like nobody better than there be any deflections from my directive to you guys to not do anything I don't tell you to do. Here's Thomas Massie trying to give a little bit of an opposite point of view on those posts.
How many Republicans do you think will vote for this on the floor?
Well, I've already had a couple Republicans tell my office privately that they're going to vote for it, and I think that could snowball. The deal for Republicans on this vote is that Trump will protect you if you vote the wrong way. In other words, if you vote to cover up for pedophiles, you've got cover in a Republican primary. But I would remind my colleagues that this vote is going to be on your record for longer than Trump is going to be president. And what are you going to do in 2028 and 2030 when you're in a debate, either with a Republican or a Democrat, and they say, how can we trust you? You covered up for a pedophile back in 2025.
Isn't it sad that has to be the convincing point from Thomas Massie to talk to fellow Republicans, to tell them you probably don't want to sign on to this because you're going to look bad in your next re-election campaign, and people are going to attack you in debates and in campaign ads to talk about how you signed on to protect pedophiles. You have to be threatened with political retribution just from being voted out because you have no principles enough for us to appeal to you saying, we've seen this huge child sex trafficking ring that involved a lot of rich and powerful people and potentially former presidents of the United States and current president of the United States. And your principles don't force you to feel like you should be on board to expose that and get to the bottom of it. But your political career is what Thomas Massie has to then appeal to. The fact that we listen to that and it seems very normal, I think is a pretty damning instance for this country. We know why some are finally doing the right thing because they don't want to look bad, or they didn't have enough courage before, and now that a couple people did, they can jump on board too. That's what Donald Trump is counting against. Here's one of those guys. The snowball is starting to get bigger.
Look, I think the oversight committee. I'm going to vote for it if it comes up because
you'll vote for the bill.
Yeah, because look, I think the Oversight Committee has pushed out a lot of disclosures. The administration's done a lot. If you look in the UK, they've tried to do something towards Prince Andrew. But one of the things that went away during this shutdown is Pam Bondi was supposed to come to the House and answer these questions. And look, I'm not on the Judiciary Committee, but I did want Pam Bondi to come and do some explaining.
But even if it does pass the House, this bill faces a very uncertain prospect, very dubious prospects. In fact, the Senate Republican leaders have shown no interest in taking this bill up. It's unlikely to get 60 votes there. And of course, Donald Trump would have to sign it into law, which he has made very clear how opposed he is to this bill. So it becoming law seems very, very unlikely at this point, Boris.
I don't think that point is made enough. Yes, this whole thing of getting the discharge petition signed is the first step. So even once that passes and goes through the House, after that then happens, they got to go to the Senate and Donald Trump has to sign it. Be like, sure, yeah, you guys can come get me. So that's where the downside of this whole thing is, because they still control all these branches. And even if one deflects like this, the good part, though, is that the folks that will vote against or for will be on record. Here's Don Bacon. Here's another Republican.
I want to make sure I heard you correctly. You will be voting yes on releasing the Epstein files if it makes it to the floor, and you believe it will.
If it goes on the floor, I get a lot of pushback. Why don't you put your name on the discharge petition? And I'm just going to be subtle in my response. Just look at all the few Republicans that are on it and who they are. It's going to come on the floor. I will vote yes.
I'm legit confused a little bit about why he feels like, look at the other Republicans that are on the discharge petition, the reasons why he's not confident enough to put his name on that, but he's willing to vote if it comes to the full vote. What is it about those Republicans that are on the discharge petition? What, they're getting pressed because Lauren Boebert got cornered in the White House yesterday about it? Is he afraid of Donald Trump? He doesn't want any retribution, but he'll vote for it eventually. Maybe he's looking for this to be his out, to vote maybe for or against it, but for this to be his out.
So as you all noticed tonight, we as soon as the discharge petition received the 218th signature, we brought it up on unanimous consent, and that would, as you know, make it, we get it through the process immediately. The Democrats, shockingly, opposed it. So it was a staggering level of hypocrisy. I think some of them regretted it because within about a half hour of that, there was a lot of confusion and some of them claimed that they did not object, but they did, and that's what happened on the floor. So we're going to put that on the floor for a full vote next week as soon as we get back.
As you can see, this is his attempt for two different ways to flip the script here. Now he's claiming that Democrats are against the release of this discharge, or at least the vote on it. But the way that he went about it was with a unanimous consent is the term that he used. And he said, and as you know, with unanimous consent, suddenly it'll be immediate. What he also did mention with unanimous consent, that the people who would vote the way that they would vote would be able to be shielded. Their names would be shielded for how they vote, giving, hopefully in his mind, some members the cover of not being exposed for voting against it. They're pulling out every card that he can possibly pull out. And he knew that Democrats would say, no, let's do this the normal way where people can be named for how they vote. He does. So he's using that as an excuse. Here's Megyn Kelly and Ben Shapiro trying to cope.
Either Pam Bondi is royally screwed up. I mean, she has. That's not in dispute. She's royally screwed up. And the president is just forgiving her because she's a loyal soldier and, you know, he likes her and he doesn't want to go through the messy confirmation process of getting somebody else in there. So that's possible. That's definitely a possible number one. And there's no there in the files anyway, right? Like the way she screwed up was overpromising when she didn't have the goods, and she genuinely doesn't have the goods. And so the big mistake was overpromising, and the president doesn't really care about that mistake. Or there is something there and it's being covered up and the president blessed it, right? But I didn't say, or there's a child sex ring that he's actively covering up, because the truth is I think there's some middle ground between 1 and 2, you're 1 and 2, of there is something in there, more could be disclosed, and it's something short of there's a massive pedophile ring that they're covering up. Like, it would have some names, those men would have to defend themselves. Maybe the administration doesn't think it's a fair position to put them in. Maybe there are questions about the accusers. Maybe there are like half-hearted allegations in there that, you know, normally a DOJ would not put out, but feels like it kind of might have to, given all the promises that have been made by Pam and prior to taking office, Cash and Dan rattling about this. So I think there could be a middle ground.
Searching for that middle ground. It's a hard cope, but you keep trying. And maybe there is some kind of middle ground. But let's go ahead and take that middle ground approach. Donald Trump's just trying to protect people. Donald Trump is trying to make sure that some people don't get embarrassed. Doesn't want those folks named. Look at how the normalization of protecting pedophiles has become mainstream. Maybe they're floating out different ideas of how we can try and get our brains fixed to accept the fact that all these lies that they've been telling for this long about reasons why they're trying to cover this up further, and it's not even really a cover up, it's a hoax. All the things they've tossed out there, there needs to be this new narrative to accept it without being upset about it. That's all that was. But if you're going to accept it and not be upset about it, you have to accept what she laid out, that Donald Trump is covering for pedophiles because he doesn't want them exposed. It's too embarrassing. Maybe there's usually flimsy evidence, but now they have to give it up now. There's so much coping going on. We're clouded with so much of it. You get lost in it and forget. We're talking about dudes that were assaulting and raping little children. That's what they want us to then believe is a middle ground. He's protecting them. He's just not on it. And that's not bad enough for them to get rid of his ass. I mean, your president only covered for pedophiles. What's the big deal? He's just protecting them.